Trusting in God's mighty power. Psalm 66, verses 3 to 6. Psalm 66 reminds us of the greatness of God's power. In verse 3, we are called to say to God, "How awesome are your deeds." This is a bold declaration that no matter what we face in life, God's power is greater. His enemies and ours cannot stand against him. When life feels overwhelming, when problems seem too big, we can trust that God's strength will prevail. In verse 4, we are reminded that all the earth worships God. The entire world, creation itself, praises him. This is an invitation for us to join in that worship. How often do we take the time to reflect on what God has done for us? In the busyness of life, it's easy to forget, but this verse encourages us to pause and lift our hearts in praise, remembering that we are part of something much larger than ourselves. Verse 5 invites us to come and see what God has done. It's a call to remember his mighty works. The Israelites looked back on how God led them through the Red Sea, turning impossible situations into moments of deliverance. And while we may not walk through parted waters today, we can still witness God's power in our lives. Think about the times he has made a way for you, how he has provided, protected, or answered prayers. Those moments remind us that God is still active and involved in our lives. Finally, verse 6 recalls how God turned the sea into dry land, guiding his people to safety. This was one of the most defining moments of God's intervention in history, showing his unstoppable power. If God can part the seas for his people, he can surely help us overcome the challenges we face today. The same God who worked miracles for the Israelites is still working in our lives. His power has not diminished, and his love for us has not faded. As you reflect on these verses, let your heart be filled with trust in God's mighty power. Praise him for the ways he has moved in your life, and trust him to continue making a way where there seems to be no way. God's deeds are awesome, and he is faithful.